What up, my friend? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I have a good one for you today. Lots of good topics. I have some entertaining life updates. I have some good fitness topics that are relevant to summer. And I'm going to finish off that list of overrated, underrated exercises, compliments of ChatGPT that I started on last episode. Do me a huge favor, listen to the entire episode. It goes a long way on the podcast algorithm that tells Spotify and Apple that it's a good podcast and it will push it to more people. Also, if you haven't already, please do me a favor, give me a 5-star review. That also helps. Now let's get into it. This is my first podcast as a 41-year-old. I had a birthday last week. Happy to report that I am in the best shape of my life. I am aesthetically still walking around in a body that people say disappears at my age. So I'm feeling very blessed to be healthy, to be strong and capable at 41 years old, which I know is not old. I make posts about this on social media because when I was in my 20s, people would tell me, wait till you get old and you're 40. And then I'll make a post saying something about 40 is not old, I'm still in good shape in my 40s, and of course some troll will inevitably pop in the comments and say, says the young man, 40 isn't old, wait till you're 60. So while I don't think 40 is old, I am just speaking on the fact that that's what I was told when I was in my 20s and 30s. Ironically, I'm also on a mission to prove to the 60-year-old that is telling me today that I'm going to be too old when I'm 60 and I won't be able to do the things that I do now. So the mission continues. I am stronger than I've ever been, more mobile than I've ever been, and my running continues to improve. One of the things I'm most happy about is that since my Achilles injury, I am continuing to increase volume weekly. So I'm around 20 to 25 miles per week. I have switched up my program a little bit. I spent the end of last week and the weekend writing a new program for myself. Historically, I've been doing 3 strength training days and 3 running days. I recently wrote a new program switching myself to 2 strength training days and 4 running days. While my goal as a hybrid athlete is to get stronger and be a better runner without sacrificing either of those, I do want to step on the gas a little bit with my running. So I do not want to get any bigger. I don't want bigger muscles. I do want to maintain my strength and my power, and those two things as they pertain to my performance. But mainly I want to be a better runner. The truth is, to be a better runner, you have to run more. So I am not necessarily reducing the volume of my training, I'm just reducing the amount of days. So I'm doing 2 full body days of strength training. That's going to be a Monday full body day and a Friday full body day. And then I'm going to run 4 days per week. One day is going to be with the running group that I've been going to consistently on Tuesday mornings. Wednesday I'll do an easy zone 2 ride on the bike. Thursday is going to be more of a near threshold interval workout. Saturday is going to be a trail run, and then Sunday will be more of an easy recovery type run, if you will. Probably something like a VT1 run, top of zone 2. Again, just to kind of start to log more miles and build up my capacity as a runner. So that's where I'm at as far as my training goes. I'm feeling good mentally. I'm feeling good physically. I am excited about the rest of the summer moving into the fall. On the subject of my birthday, my wife bought me a very cool gift that if you follow me on social media, you saw the chaos of me setting it up. I just got a new cable pulley system that also doubles as a squat rack, a bench rack, a dip bar, and a pull-up bar. So it is the shape of a squat cage, and it has a dual pulley system on it. There's also attachments for dip bars. There's different handles. I will still be going to the gym, but this eliminates the need to go to the gym especially for most of my training. When things get busy, if I have a day that I get ahead of myself and I'm strapped for time, it saves me that 20-minute drive to the gym. Also, sometimes I like to work out in an uncomfortable environment. In this case, the heat that we currently have. Instead of going to the air-conditioned gym, sometimes I like to be in my garage and sweat and struggle a little bit. Not that sweating makes your workouts any more beneficial. It's just, to me, there's something to be said about not being comfortable all the time and getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So started using that about a week and a half ago, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. The cable machine is a very cool addition to a garage gym. Having the dual cable is also a plus. So I'm able to do cable crossovers, tricep push downs, cable rows. Ironically, I'm not doing a lot of that because, like I said, hypertrophy and muscle growth is at the bottom of my priority list as far as my fitness goes, but nonetheless, it's nice to have. I was pricing out squat racks on rogue.com, and they're expensive. Even just a standalone squat rack was like $380. Just to be able to set a bar on it, do bench and do squat, I was spending over $400 with shipping. So I came across a brand that I'm not familiar with, but it was this rack that had a dual cable pulley and the ability to bench, squat, holds a lot of weight. I can do dips, which are in my routine regularly, and pull-ups, which are also in my routine regularly. And it was $500 before tax with shipping included. So I paid $539. It was on Amazon, so obviously shipping was free. So $539 for all of that compared to $400 or more with a standalone squat rack. So I don't necessarily plan to put that cable pulley system to use a ton, even though I am doing a lat cable pullover variation that I really love, mainly for shoulder mobility. I'm not using the cables a ton, but if you haven't yet, go to my YouTube and check out the video I just posted for the cable lat pullover. It's a sweet exercise. It is going to stretch your lats and improve your shoulder mobility, something serious. One of my favorite exercises as of late. I think that is what I got for you as far as personal updates. Something I want to talk about now that I am very passionate about this time of year, because I think it's one of the most overrated and borderline scammy products in the industry right now, especially this time of year: electrolytes. It is hot. People are sweating. Electrolytes are being pushed from every direction. But do you actually need them? And if you do, who benefits from them most? Listen, if you are somebody who casually works out and you're indoors and you're doing a strength training session and you don't sweat very often, you don't need electrolyte supplements. The vast majority of people, and I mean vast majority of people, get enough salt and other electrolytes from their diet, especially the general public who goes out to eat often and eats the standard American diet, which maybe a lot of my listeners don't necessarily eat the standard American diet, but people who are being marketed these products are people who go out to eat all the time. They don't prepare most of their own meals, so their food is heavily salted. If that's you, you definitely don't need electrolytes. If you are somebody who trains outside regularly in the heat and humidity and you sweat profusely, like today, even though it was early, the run group that I joined, we started at 6:15 and we ran for 50 minutes, 5-0, and my shirt was waterlogged. I could have wrung it out. I was sweating so much. And I I didn't take an electrolyte supplement today. I barely do. Once in a great while. If I have 3 or 4 of those days during the week, I'll take a supplement. I take Pedialyte. You've probably heard me talk about this before. It's the best electrolyte supplement that you can get over the counter. But I'll sip on it over 2 days, because even though we cook most of our meals at home, I get enough salt in my diet. I am not sweating so much that I need to worry about replenishing my electrolytes. If I am going on a long hike in the Adirondack Mountains and it's hot, or if I'm doing a Spartan race in the middle of the summer that is going to last longer than 90 minutes or 2.5 hours or 2 hours, I'm going to take an electrolyte supplement during that race. But as far as everyday training, you don't need a supplement, and you definitely don't need it every single day. A lot of these companies are pitching their product to be something that's taken regularly, and that is absolute BS. They're trying to sell you a product. The more you use their product, the more you'll buy it. Electrolyte supplements are basically a scam, and especially the electrolyte supplements that are 0 sugar are a full-blown scam, because you need sugar in an electrolyte supplement to maximize absorption. So while that's another marketing gimmick, because 0 sugar drinks and 0 sugar diets are super popular, it's actually counterproductive when it comes to electrolytes. You need sugar in electrolytes to maximize absorption. So if you have an electrolyte supplement that has 0 sugar in it, throw it out. If you truly think you need an electrolyte supplement and you are in the market for one, do not buy a 0 sugar electrolyte supplement. And if I was to recommend one, like I said, Pedialyte is the best on the market. It is as close to an oral rehydration solution as you can get over the counter. I am not sponsored by Pedialyte. I'm just speaking the truth. Next, I made a post about this a couple weeks ago. Had a really good conversation with a dietitian. Carbs for exercise is something I want to talk about real quick. And the main thing that I want to get across: the carbs you eat today are going to fuel tomorrow's workout. So I do encourage people to eat carbs before a workout, but I just want you to know that those carbs are not going to be the carbs that are fueling your workout. Today's workout is fueled by yesterday's carbohydrates. The carbs that you eat an hour or 2 before your workout are going to top off glycogen stores in your body. But your body is going to use the stored carbohydrates first. And for most people, unless you are an endurance athlete, you are not depleting yourself of carbohydrates quickly enough in a 30 to 60 minute session that you are going to need those topped off glycogen reserves. Again, carbs before a workout will make you feel better. Having food in your stomach in general probably feels better than working out on an empty stomach. So if you are going to eat, it should be carbs, because they're easily digested. They're easier to digest than fats and proteins. So you definitely want to choose carbs. But the only carbs that are being used within 30 minutes of taking them in are things like honey, things like nerds or nerd clusters that I used to use on a workout. Those are quick digesting carbs. Those are going to be available in your system within 30 minutes or so. Same thing like orange juice. It's going to spike your blood sugar, and you'll actually be able to use those carbs for energy. That's why you see endurance athletes, whether they're cyclists or runners, they are taking in those gels during their runs, and they're actually using those carbohydrates, that sugar, for energy. But those are endurance athletes who are working out or training or running for long periods of time. After about an hour and 15 minutes, you are going to start to deplete your glycogen stores. You're going to want to replenish them. The caveat is you have to replenish them before you need them. So, for example, when I'm doing a Spartan race, I will 2 hours before the race, have a high carb breakfast. That way those carbs can get into my system. And then when the race starts, I will have either what I used to eat was a banana rice ball. And then for convenience, I did start switching to those gels. But when the race starts, I'll have a gel because in 30 minutes, I'm going to need that energy because my stores are going to start to get depleted shortly after that. If I wait until I'm hungry, or if I wait until I'm shaking, or if I wait until my muscles are depleted to take a gel, by then it's too late because I still need 30 minutes for that food to get into my bloodstream to be used as energy. So if you are going to be out on a long hike, a long run, a long cycle, make sure to eat the food, whether it be a gel, a packet of honey, nerd clusters, anything, gummy bears, things like that. Make sure to eat it before you need it, because even if it is a fast digesting carb, it's going to take time to get into your system. You chew it, it goes into your bloodstream, but it takes at least 30 minutes. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. That's everything I got for my topics, aside from the overrated, underrated. All right, here we are. My list got reordered, so give me 1 second here. I think we're starting with leg raises. Where are we at here? Hanging leg raise. Yeah, we finished off with glute kickback and muscle ups, and we're starting with some heat today. This says hanging leg raises, but I'm going to say hanging leg raises, or a leg raise where you put your elbows in the straps that are hanging from a pull-up bar. The fact that this is on the list kind of infuriates me. So we're starting with some heat. These are not even remotely close to an overrated exercise in any capacity. Leg raises are phenomenal for core. If you are doing them hanging from your hands, they're also going to help you build grip strength. These are one of the best core exercises in the calisthenics world. A lot of people do them for good reason. If you have trouble with grip strength, doing them in those elbow straps is a phenomenal way to take the grip out of it, so your grip isn't the limiting factor and you can just lay into the core aspect of it. I'm going to take it one step further. The better you get at leg raises, the better you get at leg raises, the quicker and the more you can move on to other hanging core variations like windshield wipers, around the worlds, even knee tucks. So if leg raises are too hard for you, you can do hanging knee tucks, which is a great regression, phenomenal for your core, better than any crunch variation that you can do. Hanging leg raises done correctly when grip isn't the limiting factor is an S tier exercise. I cannot believe they are even on this list. Next up, where are we here? Why is this list so weird? Hanging leg raises. Okay. Kettlebell swing. This is actually a really good one. I'm glad this is here. Kettlebell swings are overrated in the way that most coaches, especially I would say group class coaches, program them, and how most people do them. But done correctly and in the right context, they're a phenomenal exercise, and I would say they're underrated. So first, the overrated side. A lot of times, group classes and coaches who just like to make create workouts that make people tired, kettlebell swings are done for high repetitions. And people call them cardio, but they're not a cardio exercise. I don't care how fast you do them. I don't care how many reps you do them. I don't care how out of breath you are when you do them. Kettlebell swings are not cardio. They're actually a perfect example of comparing exercises in the strength and cardio aspect. One thing that I talked about on the podcast episode where I had Alex Viata on was how do you know if an exercise is cardio or not? And basically the way he put it was, if there is a limiting factor other than your cardiovascular system not being able to keep up, it's not cardio. For example, if you can't do something for an hour, or in other words, if you can't do an exercise for 1 hour without there being a limiting factor other than your cardiovascular system, it is not cardio. And that doesn't mean you have to do cardio for an hour for it to be cardio. It means if you can't do kettlebell swings for an hour straight because your grip gives out and your shoulders are fried, a kettlebell swing is not cardio. It doesn't matter how out of breath you get doing 30 kettlebell swings quickly. You could say the same thing for battle ropes. Battle ropes, ironically, are on this list. If you can't do them for 1 hour non-stop because your shoulders are fried or because your grip gives out, you can't consider them cardio. If you enjoy them, if you enjoy kettlebell swings, cool. But as far as using them as cardio, they are wildly overrated. As far as swinging the bell all the way overhead, the American kettlebell, overrated, trash, because you're taking away from the point of the exercise. It is underrated in the sense that it is an explosive power of the hips exercise, meaning that the explosiveness and the drive through the hips during the hinge pattern is the point of the exercise. In order to get the kettlebell over your head, like an American kettlebell swing, you have to turn that into a front raise. That is a waste of time. You should be driving through the hips, and that hip drive is the only way that you should be moving that kettlebell. So however high the bell goes from your hip thrust or your hip drive, that's how high it goes. If it gets to here, if you're watching that video, if you get it to your chest, that's great. But as soon as you use your arms to lift it higher, you're wasting energy and it's pointless. So I would say they are underrated in how they should be done and overrated in how they're usually programmed. I love kettlebell swings, super heavy. I usually go like 50 to 60 pounds, and I will do anywhere from like 10 to 20 reps to eye level, only using my hips to get the bell to eye level, not my arms. And in that case, they're very underrated. Dragon flag. Ooh. Another underrated exercise. They're very difficult, so maybe that's why it put it on here for overrated, but there's some solid regressions and modifications. I think that the vast majority of coaches aren't hip to how to regress body weight exercises. I think, being in such a weightlifting universe, bodybuilding, weights in general, people don't know how to regress calisthenics exercises, but the dragon flag will smoke your core. There's at least 3 different regressions that you can do if you're a beginner and you can't do a full dragon flag. You can do a dragon flag hold that's going to be significantly more tension on your core than a plank. But if you can't hold a plank, you probably shouldn't be doing the main variation of a dragon flag hold. But there's also variations that you can do where you're going through a range of motion. Underrated, but also there are prerequisites to the dragon flag. So I love this. I'm definitely going to go with a hard underrated. Sissy squat. I have to go underrated for sissy squat too. Phenomenal body weight exercise to hit your quads if you don't have weights available at home. Assisted sissy squat is a great way to hit your quads, basically replicating the leg extension machine where you're hitting your quads on the machine at the gym. I think it's a great variation. I think it's underrated. Maybe if you go to a gym, you don't need them, but if you work out at home, most people that aren't in the business don't have a leg extension machine at home, so a sissy squat is a great variation to use. If you can do an unassisted sissy squat, you have phenomenal quad strength and mobility, and this is also a good way to strengthen the muscles around your knees. Yes, you have to work to get there, but it could be an exercise that can potentially help with knee pain. Underrated. That is a hard underrated. Farmer carry. I have to say, I think this is properly rated. Anybody worth their salt knows the benefits of a farmer carry. I would also throw in suitcase carry. Both of those I program often and regularly for my online coaching clients. I throw them in to my own routine pretty regularly. I have a couple of guys that are police officers, firefighters, first responders in general, should be doing farmer carries. It should be a staple in their programming. You're always carrying heavy things with your hands. Awkward carries are a must-have for first responders. Farmer carries for the general public, great for grip strength, great for core strength. The suitcase carry is going to help you with some anti-rotation component, also grip strength, core strength. I think I'm going to go properly rated because these are a popular exercise in the fitness industry. They're used in many different ways, and I think that we're in the right realm for this exercise. Bulgarian split squat. How is this 10 on the list? I think ChatGPT is a little drunk here. Overrated. Unbelievable. Bulgarian split squats are the king of lower body exercises. Any split squat variation, phenomenal to build lower body strength, even balance. Bulgarian split squat you can do with dumbbells by your side. You can do unilateral. You can do it in a goblet position. You can do it with the barbell on your back. You can increase the weight for the rest of your life, and you will always be challenged in some way, shape, or form with a Bulgarian split squat. I gotta say, properly rated, even though this list has them low, I think the world knows that these are phenomenal. You can bias them glute or quad depending on your goals or depending on what you want to hit that day. A wider stance with a slight lean forward is going to hit your glutes a little bit more. More narrow stance is going to be a little bit more quad dominant. Either way, you're hitting both muscles, but that change in stance will swing it one way or the other depending on your goal. Like I said, you can do multiple variations. You can change your stride length. Phenomenal exercise. Properly rated in the context of the fitness world. Underrated in the context of this dumbass list having it at 10. Clean and jerk. I think it has its place for people who need it. If you're in a sport that requires you to clean and jerk, cool, but it's pretty overrated. You don't need it. The general public doesn't need it. If you're a runner, you don't necessarily need to be clean and jerking. If you just want general strength, you don't need to clean and jerk. Same thing with a snatch. I'll just group these together. Number 9 is clean and jerk. Number 8 is a snatch. Both overrated, so I agree with the list. I would actually probably have them closer to the more overrated exercise. I have never done a clean and jerk in my life. I've never done a snatch in my life. And I'm not missing anything. There was literally never a moment in my life where I'm going to be performing anything that I do and say, I wish that I was clean and jerking, unless I do an Olympic lifting competition where I have to perform a clean and jerk and do it well. Totally overrated. You do not have to do them. I think I spoke in the last episode. Push press. No power clean in here, but I would say power clean is significantly more beneficial. And on that note, probably underrated, but significantly more beneficial than a clean and jerk. Power clean, push press, phenomenal exercises. Clean and jerk snatch, overrated. Hip thrust. This is a tough one. My mind wants to say overrated because it's one of those things. It's like the exercise. It's like the exercise of creatine in the fitness industry and like online coaches. Everybody's making content about the hip thrust. If you can't feel it in your glutes, change this and do this. The best booty building exercise, the hip thrust. But it's a phenomenal exercise. Like, I think it's properly rated because there are benefits. A hip dominant exercise, you can do it at home. You can do it single leg. You can do it with your feet elevated. We all need that glute work. Now they have so many different kinds of hip thrust machines. We actually have 2 different hip thrust machines at the gym I go to. So I'm going to say properly rated because it gets talked about quite a bit, and I think rightfully so. I candidly hate a barbell hip thrust. You'll never see me do them. I will never talk about them. I despise setting up a barbell, getting underneath it, laying my back on the bench, and then hip thrusting. I don't give a shit about how much weight I can barbell hip thrust. But I will say once in a while, I do like to do one of the machines at the gym or just to get a nice loaded hip thrust, hip extension. Really good for mobility. Also, if I'm doing some calisthenics away from home, if I'm at a hotel gym that may be limited with equipment, a single leg hip thrust with a weight would be phenomenal to throw into a routine. So I think properly rated. I would argue that the variations, like the single leg hip thrust with a weight, single leg hip thrust with a pause at the top, or with a pulse where you go all the way up, down halfway, all the way up, down all the way, that's probably underrated. A lot of people, when they talk about barbell hip, or they talk about hip thrust, they're talking about barbell or Smith machine. Again, I hate those variations. But single leg variations and machine variations, phenomenal exercise. Number 6, battle ropes. Wildly overrated, period, full stop. Trash. I've sold all of my battle ropes because they're absolutely useless. Pistol squat, underrated. They have pistol squat at number 5. It's underrated. Single leg strength. Balance, stability, very difficult, but there are variations that you can do to regress it and still get that benefit. Do you have to do it? No. Does it make you more athletic? Probably not, but it is fun. It is an exercise that if you can't do now, it gives you a phenomenal sense of accomplishment when you do get it. So I think there's the psychological benefit of the exercise, that it's something that you're going to really suck at when you start, but eventually when you get good at it and you can just bang out a few pistol squats, it's a really good feeling, and it's also kind of cool. You know, nostalgically for me, it was one of the lower body exercises that I really worked on a lot as somebody who was doing calisthenics for the first 10 to 12 years of my fitness career that I actually stuck with this previous time around. First 10 years I didn't touch a weight, lots of pistol squats. You can do them one leg at a time to make them more difficult. You can alternate legs. You can start from the bottom and stand up from the pistol squat, kind of like a bottoms up squat. You can do a counterbalance where you hold a weight out in front of you to modify it to give you a little bit of assistance. You can do a negative pistol squat, roll on your back, and then roll back up for some momentum to stand. Phenomenal exercise. Again, I have to say these are underrated. Number 4, kipping pull-up. Overrated. Big time. Definitely top 5 most overrated exercises. I will die on this hill. It just is not good for your shoulders. Maybe people who know how to do them properly can get away with doing them without destroying their shoulders. I've never been a fan, and to be fair, the only time I've seen kipping pull-ups is in poorly programmed CrossFit. I don't speak about it much. I don't have anything against CrossFit inherently, but I do hate poorly programmed CrossFit, and unfortunately in my hometown that's pretty much all there is, especially when CrossFit was very popular and buzzing. There was a lot of poorly programmed CrossFit, so kipping pull-ups were very, very overrated. Rounding out the list with the top 3, I'm just going to start shitting on some exercises. Bosu ball squat, beyond overrated. I've made many posts about this and I have gotten crucified on it, and I do not care. Another hill I will die on. High risk of injury, low reward, absolutely zero benefit to a Bosu ball squat. People will argue that it trains strength and balance at the same time. The issue is, it is, again, high risk of injury, and there are numerous exercises that are better at building strength and balance at the same time than a Bosu ball squat. Also, as far as balance goes, it is task specific. So you want to train balance for the everyday movement or scenario that you are preparing for. And we all know that there's never a scenario in life where the floor moves like this and you have to balance. Even in an earthquake. I have been in an earthquake before when I lived in San Diego, and the ground didn't split into a flat piece and I had to balance like this. So I would much rather you do Bulgarian split squats for balance. I would much rather you do single leg RDLs, any split squat variation, to be fair. Wildly overrated. If you have a Bosu ball, you should either throw that bitch in the garbage or flip it on the bubble side down and do push-ups on it. That's pretty much the only good exercise you can do with a Bosu ball. Hands on the flat part, push-ups, great for shoulder stability. Other than that, probably the most, if not one of the most overrated pieces of fitness equipment in the world. Burpee. Overrated. I gotta do it. There can be some benefits to it for people who are conditioned, but 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10 for the general public, I would rather you do a decent squat and then immediately follow that with a decent push-up. Just string together a good squat and a good push-up quickly, and you're going to get more benefit with less risk of injury. Again, a burpee is not cardio because you can't do them for an hour without your legs or arms feeling destroyed. So while they can get your heart rate up and maybe could be a substitute, or maybe can be a good addition to a quick workout to make you out of breath and to make you feel like you did something in a short amount of time, that may be fine. But high risk of injury, low standard. The standard for a burpee is different in every facet of fitness. Spartan has a different standard. CrossFit has a different standard. Basically, any fitness avenue, any fitness genre that you go to has a different variation or a different standard, which just muddies the water. If I go somewhere and there's burpees in the workout and there's 10 people doing, I'm doing a different variation than the person next to me, and they're doing a different variation than the person next to me. And when I say variation, when I do a burpee, I'm doing a strict push-up. I am jumping forward, and then I jump up and I bring my hands over my head. You have people who will flop down like a fish when they do their push-up, and then they'll jump forward, and then they'll do like a baby hop and put their hands like at their shoulders. I hate burpees. I don't think I've programmed a burpee in like 10 years. Again, when I used to teach group classes and I was teaching like Spartan races, I was teaching Spartan classes. Since they were a part of the Spartan race that we were training for, I would have them in there, but I absolutely hate them. I hate them. Turkish get up, overrated. I hate it. It's one of those exercises that people want to call a functional movement. It's so stupid. Not to shit on the people who are really good at it. It's like a party trick. I don't see any functionality of it. You know, I'm sure there's certain people who would give me pushback on this, and we're all entitled to our own opinion, and I think that's why I'm here. But if you were listening to somebody else's podcast and they like the Turkish get up, they can rate it higher. I've done them for a short period of my fitness career, a very short period. I think there's too much that goes into it for very little reward. I don't think you need to do them. I think they're really stupid. That's the list. 30 exercises that, in my opinion, are overrated or underrated. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned some things. I hope you learned about my opinion, and I hope you picked up on some nuance and in some of the reasons that I gave for these exercises. That's the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do me a favor, give me a 5-star review. If you feel like leaving a comment and giving your opinion on some of the exercises, feel free. I love discussion. Again, these are just my opinions. It's completely subjective for the most part. So if you want to leave a comment, maybe I will discuss your opinion and my take on your opinion in the next episode. Thanks for listening. I hope you have a great day. Until next time.